Would you like to see Inuvialuit taught to your children in the schools? That was the main question asked last March of 1990 during the language conference. That question was put forth again to the public during the annual general meeting of the Aklavik Community Education Council last week. You'll see the outcome of that meeting and later how the Aklavik Adult Learning Center has progressed with their Pathfinder program. Welcome to TAMAPTA. I'm Debbie Gordon.
Language Conference. Last March, over 50 elders and youth delegates
March
were
of
brought to
1990, Inuvialuit from 6 communities gathered together to discuss how the Inuvialuit language and culture could be kept. The outcome of the meeting was many written recommendations to government officials and ministers. But the main initiative lied with those people in the communities.
They either die or they get better. That's the situation of our language today. It either is going to die or we're going to work together to make it survive.
If you look at all
Here we have the statistic report from 5 communities on the fluency rate of people who are able, or more so, unable to speak and understand Inuvialuit.
121 are elders, 198 are 18 to 59-year-olds, and all the white ones are people that are not fluent in Inuvialuit. And there are lots and lots and lots and lots.
Today in the communities, such as Aklavik, which has a population of close to 1,000, much of the teaching role of required skills, such as math, social studies, reading and writing, as well as preservation of the native languages, is left up to the schools.
And number 11, 12, what does it work? Okay, what do I do though? How?
And 2/3. 2 TWO.
Done it together. 1 to 6, write the fraction. Grade 2s, I will check your work. Okay, are you having something here?
The local Community Education Council Board,
Call the
or
meeting to
CEC, held their annual general meeting on the evening of March 26th at their Moose Kerr School. The CEC consists of 8 members. From that 8, 5 are needed at a meeting in order to make a quorum. A quorum is needed so that decisions and motions can be made and passed to determine how and what the school provides for their children. The director of the Beaufort Divisional Delta Board of Education for the Inuvik region, Peter Murray, was invited to discuss if the school wanted to continue having native language instruction or it be taken away and just English be spoken.
And secondly, language of instruction. As far as staffing goes, the Beaufort Delta Board this year is considerably advanced over where we were last year at this time. We have completed our southern interviews. We have completed our initial reference checks, although reference checks again will be done on anybody who is actually offered the position.
Along with being the director of the Beaufort Delta Board, Peter Murray is the superintendent of education for the Inuvik region. He says that native language can become a real part of the school and not just be added on.
All right, very briefly, the decision that the community has to make is a very important one. They have to decide what level of language provision they want in their school. They've decided tonight that they would like to continue with both Inuvialuit and Gwich'in from kindergarten up to grade 4 on the present basis that it's being taught approximately half an hour a day to each classroom. And in order to do that, they are prepared to commit one of the positions at the school specifically to language instruction, so that those language instructors will be part of the school staff.
Input and comments from parents and the public was needed before the CEC members could decide if native language instruction was to continue. One concerned parent attended, along with 8 concerned teachers.
It really has 3 options. The first option is to teach everything in English and not have any native language instruction in school. That's one choice we could go with. The second choice that the CEC could follow is the subjects could be taught in English, and Gwich'in and Inuvialuit could be taught every day as a subject, which essentially is the way it's done in Aklavik right now. Subjects are taught in English, but students go to take Gwich'in for about a half an hour a day, or they go to take Inuvialuit. So we could continue that process. The third option that the Education Council could decide on is to have a total immersion in Gwich'in or Inuvialuit in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, and so on. They would have to decide where they want that to stop. What that would mean is that a student coming into kindergarten, for example, would do all of the same work that they would normally do in kindergarten, except they would be taught everything in Gwich'in or everything in Inuvialuit. The year following that, it could be in kindergarten and grade 1. The year following that, it could be kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 2. And the Education Council would have to decide how far up they want to go with that, if that's the route they want to follow, and if they do, what to do. If they go to grade 4, for example, what do you do with the grade 5, 6 students, and so on and so forth. Now, this has a number of implications that the community and the council should understand. First of all, whatever decision is made, the community has to be willing to stay with for a number of years, probably 3 years as a minimum, because you can't decide a major policy 1 year and then decide to do something completely different the other year. Once you make a decision, you have to stick with it for the time being. Another implication of that, besides the time frame, is that for example, if you decide that you do not need native language instruction in your school, you have to understand that everything is going to be done in English. There's going to be no facility in the community that's really supporting native languages. And you have to be willing to accept that. If you decide to have native languages taught as a subject, you have to be willing to find somebody who can and is able to teach that, and you have to find a place for them in the school. So that would require 2 people at least, one in Gwich'in and one in Inuvialuit, who has a regular place on the school staff. If the community decides to go with an immersion program, let's say in kindergarten, taught all in native languages, that means you have to have a kindergarten teacher who speaks Gwich'in and a kindergarten teacher who speaks Inuvialuit. The year following that, you would have to have a kindergarten teacher who speaks Gwich'in and a grade 1 teacher who speaks Gwich'in, a kindergarten teacher who speaks Inuvialuit, and a grade 1 teacher who speaks Inuvialuit. There are 4 teachers out of 10. So the community has to make a decision to hire people, if they want to follow that route, who speak the native language and are not necessarily certified teachers in the South. Now, whatever decision the community wants to make, the Department of Education is willing to assist this, first of all, by providing the Board of Education with money to run Inuvialuit and Gwich'in centers. They provide that funding. The department is also willing to provide staffing positions that could be assigned to native language instructors. For example, we could give the school a classroom assistant position, and you could say that the person you want to hire has to be fluent in the native languages, and they have to work in the native languages. So the department is willing to help out, whatever decision is made. The Board of Education is willing to help out by providing resources from the Inuvialuit and Gwich'in centers in the way of providing curriculum, materials, various booklets and things that these people could use, and also to help them be trained, not as teachers really, but how to handle a classroom, how to deal with students. Because the people that we would be hiring initially would not be trained teachers. The language instructors that we have now are not trained teachers. So the board would help out by training these people. But as a community, you have to make the decision whether or not you want these languages in the school, to what extent, and you have to be willing to designate certain positions on your school staff to native languages. In the past, sometimes communities have tended to want to have their cake and eat it too. We have communities saying to us, we really want Inuvialuit in our school. We really want Gwich'in in our school, but we want to hire all our teachers from the south and have certified teachers from Edmonton or Toronto or Montreal. These people don't speak Gwich'in. They don't speak Inuvialuit. We can't do that and also give you extra teachers to teach the native language. It just doesn't work. That money is not available to us. And essentially, that's the decision that the Education Council has to make.
Thank you, Peter. Can I ask what the public think? Do you want to see that in kindergarten, or do you want to see it continuing in grade 1 or grade 4?
I think first they'd have to know how to speak and understand before they can be taught on a daily basis. So they can understand what's being said to them. Well, if they understood it right from day one and they knew what they were saying, then I don't see it as a problem, but I don't think the majority of the kids understand the language right from newborn right till they start school.
Start with kindergarten, the whole language, the Inuvialuit and Gwich'in language will start there, and then next year after that, it will go on to grade 1. But that's the only...
If no one's in favor of it, will you just continue carrying on with the way it is now?
Yeah, the way it is now. We have an opening, a classroom assistant opening, an extra classroom assistant opening, and with that classroom assistant opening, we can still keep our 2 language instructors the way they are teaching now in grade 1 to grade 4. And we don't have to make any changes. But we would like to get your feeling on how do you want it done? How do you want it done in your school?
Well, I have my son going to kindergarten next year, and I don't think I want that.
With the language program?
Well, right now I have my 2 daughters in the language program, and to date, I don't think they know any words since January. So I really don't.
You don't want to see the immersion in the kindergarten?
Personally, no.
Mm-hmm.
It would be okay if they can understand it right from day one. They know what they're talking about.
Parents have to learn. They have to be at their house. They have to learn from home if they want to be taught in the school, because when they be taught in the school, then they go home, they don't speak the language, or they don't use the language that they're taught. But with this literacy program that is coming up, Alan has come forward to us with this literacy program for parents that would like to take this program to learn to talk to Inuvialuit and Gwich'in in the evenings or whenever they start this program, and maybe the parents could help their children.
Ruth Ilanik is the chairperson of the Aklavik Community Education Council. She works in the school daily on a voluntary basis, helping the principal, students, and staff, and writing many letters for funding or support from the education department. A major issue in making programs work, she says, is if only the parents become more involved.
If there's schools out there for them to go to learn, I think then they'll really encourage the children and help in the school with the students. That's what the CEC board sees too, that they do really need training course for the those two areas that we're looking at, because we're looking at long term. That's 3 years long term, and you know, in 3 years, do we want our children to be continuing the way they are, or do we want them more input? So we have to encourage our language instructors to go take these courses if they're available, and the CEC board too. Also, I've encouraged them to come into the school to see these language programs, see if they're being taught right, or if they're if things are slacking. Like, you know, we are the CEC board. We have the power to tell them what they should be teaching our students.
What do you foresee for like native cultures being implemented, using for the future for the Inuvik region?
Well, within the Beaufort Delta board, certainly, I think that we are aiming for a point where any student coming to school in Aklavik has Gwich'in, Inuvialuit, and the local culture as a regular part of the school, so that it's not a subject they take separate from other subjects, that it is just part of the school and it's part of their daily life. But in order to accomplish that, the community has to realize that it has to be part of their life outside of school as well. The school can have students working on native cultural things and studying native languages in the school, but it isn't entirely successful if they never hear it at home, if they never hear it in the stores, and if they never hear it from other children. So eventually what we would like to see is local language and culture just to become a part of the children's lives.
Do you think this has a lot to do with them not knowing their identity, like their background of who they are? Do you think that has any kind of role or effect on students, that they don't know their background, or is it just the way they're?
I think it's just the way the modern life. I just think it's today's modern life. Like maybe if the child was brought up in the way of living in the bush and things like this, and coming into school, that child will be really different. It'll be quiet, and because he's learning, and then but then in our community, you see them see a lot of our young parents that are just leaving home and going into their new home, and then they're having kids and trying to, like, they're learning, they're still growing up and learning, and also trying to learn their kids. How can you learn when you're trying to learn same time too? And it's like, you know, like if I was a dropout and I didn't care to go to school, I wake up every morning, maybe 11 o'clock in the morning, and then I had my children to go to school. How am I going to get up in the morning to send them to school? You know, that's the way a lot of our young parents are now today. They're dropouts in school, and they're having children, and then they
pass their same kind
of cultural the way it is. But then you could see some families are helping their children. You could see them in the students that are really getting help from their parents. They're really high marks in their report cards. But you could tell when a parent is not helping their child in school, is they're really low on reading, writing, speaking, imaginary. It's because they're the ones that are sending their kids to school and letting their teachers teach them in school while they could be taught at home too. Half an hour a day at home, reading or writing, or, you know, just talking with your child, it really improves. But like, we don't have that support with parents spending time with their students, and I really like to see that happening in our school. Parents spending time with their students at home, reading with them and maybe writing with them. But sending them to school and just letting the teachers take care of it, it's not helping. You could see that on their report card that they're really low. Mm-hmm. They're low because they got no they got no support at home. And I see it in because we're the CEC board. We're the we have to talk about the students. We're here for the students.
Education doesn't start at kindergarten and finish at grade 9 or finish at grade 12. And things that advanced education are doing should fit in very well with what we're trying to do. We're all on the same team.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I would just like to point one thing out that I don't think parents often realize. They often tend to think of when their children go to kindergarten that they suddenly have a teacher. And when they go to grade 1, they have their second teacher. But parents often forget that they are their child's first teacher. And they're as much a teacher as the people at the school. They don't do it for pay, and they don't work with a classroom, but a mother teaches her child to tie his shoes, to talk, to do all sorts of things. So parents should feel at home in a school and comfortable in talking to teachers because they're talking about the same things.
New programs and a new way of learning is what has been taking place at the Aklavik Adult Learning Center. These dropout students have returned to school and have realized the importance of education. Community adult instructor Alan Fair explains the new system.
Well, last March, it was March 1990 that Arctic College, along with ESSO and Shell Canada, purchased the Pathfinder learning system from a company in Toronto. And I think it was a 3-year lease, and it was a pilot project in the Northwest Territories. And the Pathfinder system is you'd call it a computer-managed learning system. Mm-hmm. And we had 8 computers put into the center, along with a large library of books and videos and different kits with learning materials in them. So that was put in March 1990, and we started running courses right away then. And with this system, the students are we still evaluate them based on what we know of their skills. They're enrolled on the computer, registered with the computer, and from that point on, the computer decides, when they're going to get assignments, when they're going to get tests. But the student has control as well, because they can decide. They always have a choice of which exercises or assignments they want to do. They can decide how many they want to do. So they can control their pace and kind of the level that they work at. And once they've completed a certain number of assignments on a particular topic, then the computer then knows where always keeps track of which assignments the students completed. And when it gets to the point where they're ready for a test, the student will get a test from the computer, and they complete the test, and they get the marks back from the computer.
Otto Meligana and Annie Banksland are 2 students who have made the decision to return to school. They both knew they needed further education, but the computers were a main reason they returned.
Well, we do assignments, and it prints out tests, and it just basically keeps us going, like higher and higher. After we finish a test or something, it moves us to the next assignment. It's easier on the teacher.
What skills are you learning? Like, do you do your math on there, or your language? Or
math, social, reading and writing, employment life, and science. And just basically those 5 there.
What else do you do within the class aside from working on the computers?
We do projects, field trips. Do a lot of class reading. Spend a lot of time reading with the whole class, and just classwork.
What's the atmosphere with your classmates?
It's good. everybody knows everybody, you know, nothing, no hard feelings or nothing. It's just a good feeling between everybody.
I've always thought education is important, and for the students who are at the present regular school system, I suggest that they should, you know, really try and get their grade 12, because education is so important. And it's difficult, like for me, being out of school for over 20 years and then having to go back. It was very difficult for me the first day to walk into the class because I felt I might be the oldest. But irregardless how old you are, you're never too old to go back to school. And I certainly would like to see more people my age that's been a dropout or has very little schooling. I would like to see them go back and try and get their grade 12.
What are your anticipations after you finish and get your GED?
I would like to become a teacher. I would like to take the teacher education program, and the reason behind that is our Inuvialuit language is almost lost, and because I retain my language and understand it, I feel I could be beneficial to my own people.
Together, the adult ed class integrated their community into their daily writing skills through a local newspaper. They called it Treeline News.
This one here. Our Treeline News, well, it's published once a month, and we're just coming out with our last issue. Just basically news from the town, current events, you know, school reports, RCMP reports, just basically reporting.
And what kind of feedback do you get back?
We get a lot of good news, like people phoning in and saying that they like our newspaper and they give us information to put in, and then we just circulate it. I would encourage them to come to the Learning Center, even if they think they're too old to come in. Just give it a shot, you know, try to get your grade 10 or grade 12, and you don't have to be shy about it, I guess. So there's a lot of people, a lot of older people coming to school now, because can't read and write. They get tutoring and just basically come back to school.
It really encourages them. Like, I have a daughter that goes to school here, and it really encourages her to go to school as she sees me coming to school. And I think we're more or less a role model for the rest of the community.